A hope and a wish and an expectation all complement each other. It's like the perfect triangle. I have a desire and an aspiration, that's a wish, to see an outcome. Then I start formulating the plan and I look at what the ultimate outcome might be. I think too many of us are just so afraid that if I have too much hope ahead of time, I'm going to sabotage the opportunity. As we wish for things in life and we refuse to have commitments behind the things that we wish for, we are setting ourselves up for a bad psychological trip. We're good to go. All right, what's going on, good people? I know it has been just a little bit since we've been together, but I wanted to share something with you that I've been working on. And for those of you who are joining us right now, I know on Instagram, let me know where you're joining from. If you're on Facebook, tell me where you're joining from in the comments. I want to make sure that I shout you out. And I want to talk to you tonight about something I heard earlier today that I was really intrigued by. I'm listening to this podcast, and there was this conversation around hopes, wishes, and expectations, right? So I want to share with you guys kind of my take on why these three things are very vastly different, but why only one of them will actually get you ultimately every single thing that you want. All right. So, number one, if you are not already tuned in, you can join the newsletter successfullydiscontent.com. Go there, tons of information and resources for you. Secondly, this is probably going to be one of the regular ways now that I've found out that I actually have access to stream live to like 4 different places in a really good way. For those of you on Instagram, this should look pretty clear to you. And I actually like the way this looks. So this is exciting. All right, so let's jump into it. Number one, here's the thing that I realized in my own life, and then I want to kind of break all 3 of these down. There have been times in my life where the thing that I hoped for didn't happen, and then I ultimately felt a certain way about it. There are times in my life where things that I wished for did happen, but then I never stopped and asked myself, well, why did it actually happen? And so I want to actually break down that this week. And the reason why I'm doing this is because what I also realize is this is the week that everybody who put in their 2024 New Year's resolutions typically stops this week. Like this is traditionally when gym memberships or gym traffic shuts down. People who said they were going to do this thing financially starts taking shortcuts, all the different things. Every goal that typically most people put together when it comes to their New Year's resolutions tends to fall apart. And I think it has something to do with these 3 things. So let's start with the first one, hope. If you are hoping for something right now, write down what it is that you're hoping for in the comments. I just want to see it. Just put it down in the comments. What's the thing right now that you're hoping for? And I don't mean like some far off distance. I'm talking about something that you're trying to achieve like in the next 6 months or by the end of the year. Just put it down in the comments. Because we're going to talk about hope for a second. Now, hope defined out as itself is as a feeling or desire or optimism about a future outcome. That's just what hope is, right? It's just something, you have this desire of something that you want to see done, that I want to see done as a future desire, right? Now, here's the interesting thing about a hope. Hope is one of the most, at least for me, I've noticed, it's one of the most fun roller coaster rides, but I hate the downside. I hate when I go down in hope, right? I like it when it's on the way up. That's exciting about hope. What I don't like is when the roller coaster drops when it comes to hope, right? And the reason is because the energy behind having hope for an outcome it feels really great. It's a great endorphin kicker. It makes you feel like you can conquer the world because you have this particular hope. The challenge with the hope is that it can be very fleeting. Not because hope isn't necessary. I think hope is necessary for anything that you're trying to achieve this year. But I think hope can be very fleeting because many of us do not like being disappointed. And since we don't like being disappointed, um, The disappointment is what stops us from even wanting to have hope and be hopeful to begin with. Meaning more, and there's studies that show this. There are studies that show that people would rather not do something because they fear of being disappointed than actually going out and doing the thing with the hopefulness and the energy that it creates as a result of potentially seeing a positive outcome on the other side. So while hope is critical, hope won't get you ultimately where you're trying to go. Because so that takes care of the definition. But here's some things I want you to know about hope. Um, you need hope. And I think there's too many people today who are dismissing hope because they just don't want to get disappointment. Listen, you need hope when you goal setting, when you're trying to maintain a particular discipline, when you're trying to start something. We all need hope. And the kicker is that I know for me, if I'm going to start anything, if I'm going to continue to do something, if I'm going to get something finished, I have to leverage hope. I have to leverage hope that all of this effort that I'm putting into a workout, which Chris needs to definitely get back in the gym consistently. Um, all of this effort that I'm putting into building a business, all the effort that I'm putting into my marriage, all the effort that I'm putting into learning, or all the effort I'm putting into something I invested in, I need to have hope to continue to see it through, right? Otherwise, it's just going to be a massive disappointment. So for me, I don't say that I don't look at hope like, oh, we don't need it. No, you absolutely need it. But I think too many of us are just so afraid that if I have too much hope ahead of time, I'm going to sabotage the opportunity. Or so you know what? I just won't even. I won't hope. I don't like getting my hopes up. There's even a scripture in the Bible where literally a woman says, "I told you not to get my hopes up." She's talking to, uh, you know, don't worry about the story. If you don't know the story, I can put the information down in the scriptures. But it's a really fascinating story because she wanted a son. I think it was Elijah or somebody. That is a very interesting story. And what I was more fascinated about what she said back to the prophet. So the prophet came into town, came to her house, and then she, made a room for him. And I was fascinated by the story. But what I was more fascinated by was he said, "Well, what can I do for you?" And she was like, I don't want nothing." And he was like, "You know what?" And his boy was like, "Yo, she ain't had kids. Maybe she probably want kids. Give her kids." And he was like, "You will be pregnant." And she was like, "Don't get my hopes up." Right? I told, and he died, and then the prophet came and resurrected him. But the whole point is, she went to him and was like, "Do not get my hopes up." So think about that. It's not that she didn't have the desire to have kids. She didn't want the disappointment. So you know what? I'll just forego having hope. That's a crazy way we live as humans, but we do it all the time, right? Elisha. That's right. Elisha was the one. Thank you. Second Kings chapter 4. See, my wife is over here. I don't need Chat GPT. I got my wife. Um, but it was a really interesting moment. So go read that story because I found it interesting that the woman didn't. It wasn't that she didn't want the kid. It wasn't that she didn't want to enjoy pregnancy. It wasn't that she didn't want to enjoy being a mother. She didn't want to be disappointed. So she wanted to forego any version of hope because she knew when she was on that roller coaster going up, she knew there was a potential for it to come down, right? So anyway, that's hope, right? But hope alone won't be enough to get you ultimately whatever it is you're trying to get this year, right? Hope alone will not be enough. Let's talk about wishes. That's the second one, right? So when we wish for things, right? Like put down in the comments, like what's something you're wishing for? What do you wish would happen? Right? What do you wish your spouse would do for Valentine's Day? What do you wish will happen this year at your job? What do you wish will happen within your life or your kid's life or for your spouse or for your boo thing? Write them down. Put it down in the comments because I think you need to be able to wish. And so if you look at our good cousin Webster, he defines it as a desire or aspiration. But I'm gonna alter that a little bit. The B part of that is without a clear plan or a commitment. See, like I can wish for a lot. I wish for a Benz. I wish for a big house. I wish that I have just the most chiseled body on the planet. But if I don't have a clear plan or commitment, that wish is just a conversation in the wind. That wish is just it's to me, it's lighter than hope. Because at least with hope, I can see myself with an outcome. A wish is just a desire or aspiration. I don't even see the outcome. I just want whatever this thing is, right? And so while a wish could be helpful at the very beginning of something, you need some concrete stuff to go with it. That has to be like, I think when you wish for things and you ever say you ever might say out loud, or you be talking to somebody and you're like, man, I just wish, this would go this way, or I wish they wouldn't be like this. Man, I wish this didn't happen. When you say that, you already know that the wish isn't helpful. You know why? Because you are not putting any action behind the thing that you wish for most of the time. Most of the time when we say we wish for something, we're not actually being clear. We're not writing. We don't even have a commitment to it. We just wish that would happen. Oh, I wish my spouse would be more whatever. Well, put some action behind it, right? And so a lot of times when we wish for things, the stuff that we're wishing for lacks commitment. And that's the ones to think about when we wish for things. Because the conversation I was listening to today was kind of fascinating. That when we wish, as we wish for things in life, and we refuse to have commitments behind the things that we wish for, we are setting ourselves up for a bad psychological trip. Because then we'll start saying things like, nothing good ever happens in my life. Oh, I wanted this to happen, but then these things popped up. Not realizing that disruption follows intention. But in order to be intentional, at least you need to have some hope that a particular outcome will happen. I'm just saying, based on the definition of hope, right? But if you just wish for something, that's just a desire or aspiration. I desire a six pack. Do I have a plan of a eating plan? Do I have a workout plan? That, by the way, I'm willing to follow, meaning I'm willing to commit to. Like, here's the crazy part. Some of us don't let long enough be long enough, right? Like I think about my marriage. The thing that I came into my marriage with is I am willing to do whatever it takes for however long it takes for my wife to know I not only did I choose you every freaking day. Somebody put a fire emoji in the chat for that one. Now, that sounds great on the surface, and that could be something that people desire to and aspire to. But you know what? Without an actual commitment to that said thing, that desire, it means nothing. If I'm not if I'm not showing demonstrations of that thing, it means nothing. I told my wife, the biggest thing for me physically, right, is I had to have a new goal after I lost the first 65 pounds. And my goal was I want to stay irresistible to my wife. That's a desire. That's an aspiration. But if I don't put any concrete plans in place, if I don't if I don't control what goes in my mouth, and if I don't control my schedule and my calendar to focus on my physical wellness, if I don't put the right supplements in my body, if I don't do the things, meaning commit to that, it means absolutely nothing. And can I tell y'all something? I think I posted this the other day um in on Facebook. The worst person you can lie to is yourself. That's the worst person. And I think we do that with wishes all the time. We're lying to ourselves. Now, here's the cool part. It doesn't mean you can't tell the truth. The truth is the things that you commit to and do every single day. That means I desire to do something, but I'm telling myself the truth. Why? Because I'm constantly going and doing the work, right? So what do I mean? Today's Thursday. And tomorrow I wake up and I say, I want to be irresistible to my wife physically, right? Cool. Well, then when I go to bed that night, did I do something that made that statement true? Yes, I ate well within reason. I worked out, right? And I watched, maybe certain things that I stayed away from as far as what I ate. Cool. That means that aspiration was demonstrated that day. Good. I won, right? But a lot of times when we wish for things, the things that we just wish for, we don't put the action steps behind it. So that's why I want to talk about the third one. Because the third one to me is the better way to live our lives. And that's, don't just hope for something, don't just wish for something. You need to have expectations. Here's the best way I like to define the expectations: specific, achievable goals with a plan of action. By the way, one that I can also hand over and share, so that way I can be held accountable to whatever said thing is that I want to be able to um achieve, right? So the reason why expectations to me are the best bar we can have as a standard for ourselves is because they're based on a few different things that I personally like to focus on. Number one, expectations are based on personal commitments, meaning their commitment to Chris before their commitment to my spouse, before their commitment to my children, before their commitment to whoever, is a personal commitment. I'm committing to me. Eric Thomas wrote a book recently called You Owe You. I love that title. And he's been like on this thing about like, don't wake up another day and let you down from now on. That's ridiculous, right? Like, you're the reason why that certain things haven't happened. You owe you this time, right? So it first, expectation is first based on a personal commitment. The second is discipline. That yes, I'm committing to this thing, but I've got to, today I have to do whatever it is and only focus on today. Meaning I can't focus on having an ultimate six pack if I'm not taking today, Thursday, and just doing the work that it takes to achieve today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Can't do nothing about yesterday. I can do something about right now, though. That I am 100% in control of, right? And then the third thing it takes is the consistent steps. So it's the personal commitment to yourself, the discipline, and the consistent steps, not the flash steps. Like, that's the one thing that I don't like about a lot of these to keep with the physical analogy, what about these uh these shots and these, lose 100 pounds in 30 days. I don't like that stuff. And part of the reason is because it's just unnatural. It's just absolutely unnatural. I'm not saying the result won't happen. What I'm saying is you didn't build up a habit enough to keep it. So that's the reason why on The World's Biggest Loser, that old TV show that used to be on, yeah, they lost it, but when they would go back and look at them a year later, they gained a lot of it back. Why? Because the focus in a very short amount of time to try to make a weight, but developing the discipline of the daily consistent steps, that wasn't a real thing, right? That's one of the reasons why I like the plan that we have with our wellness company, the R3 plan, because it's a three-step process. The first step is, just getting things in line, right? The second step, we're really focused on, like, resetting. And then the third one I like more is about real life. Well, now what does the reality look like now that you've gotten this play together, right? Like, to me, that's more realistic, because whatever I habitually do, that I am. Period. It don't matter what the heck, you know, I want ultimately. It's, what am I doing right now? That's actually who I am. Now I can change that at any moment, but it's just the point of knowing, like, that should be a ultimate focus of who I am as a person. Okay. So yes, you should hope for things, but be all right with being on that emotional roller coaster. You are going to be disappointed in this life. You are a human being with air going through your lungs and a brain. Something is going to disappoint you, if not yourself. We just got to get over that. Wishing for things without a plan of commitment doesn't work. So what we really should focus on is having expectations. Now, here's the cool part when you actually add all three of them together, because I think it's not about either or. It's about, well, how do I make this work for me, right? How do I make sure that this thing is working on my behalf at the end of the day? And here's how it works for me. Number one, um a hope and a wish and an expectation all complement each other. It's like the perfect triangle, right? I have a desire and an aspiration, that's a wish, to see an outcome. Then I start formulating the plan, and then I look at what the ultimate outcome might be. And then I start putting the plans in place in order to make that happen. That gets me hopeful. Now I have a level set of expectations. And here's the thing that most people don't realize about expectations. While you put together the plan and while you execute against that plan, it immediately also gives you boundaries. And some of us just need boundaries to make our lives better, to achieve whatever the goal is that we have for this year. We just need boundaries. And if you create a level of expectation, you will have those boundaries. It's by default, right? So let's continue with the physical analogy. Well, if I want a six pack and I want to look good, well, and I start eating the right way and I'm working out on a consistent basis, well, it automatically will tell me what I'm not eating and what I won't allow as a result of the path that I have chosen. And so it by default gives you the boundaries that you've got to work in order to be able to achieve said goal. The other thing is that when you have hope and the wishes that work together, it can inspire other people to not only just take action, but to say, I'm willing to live at the level of expectation that you are because I like the results you get. That's what's cool about it. Not so much the worry about, well, you know what, other people might see me and I'm a little concerned. Don't worry about that. Realize that if you do this right, it will attract other people who go, you know what, I'm willing to live at that level. I see how you treat how your wife treats you. You know what? I'm gonna start doing it a certain way because I like that and I'm gonna live at that bar too. You know what? I see how y'all handle y'all money. I see the things y'all invest in. Wow. You know what? I want that too. So you know what? I'm gonna start living at that level. That to me is one of the blessings of the power of combining all three of those, right? So let me kind of give you a few examples of like just to illustrate the point of all three of these. And then, put your questions down below or your comments and your thoughts. I'll make sure that I respond. But um this is kind of like, let's think about like if you didn't have expectations, right? It would be kind of like driving without a GPS or any version of a navigation system. Remember Yahoo Maps, right? MapQuest and all of that. Imagine if you just got in the car and was just driving, but you have zero expectations about where you're going. No outcome specific goal. I'm just burning gas, right? Or the charge nowadays with EVs, right? And so because you don't have a clear route that you're trying to go or any expectations about when you're going to arrive, you either going to get lost, encounter a roadblock, you ultimately end up just wasting time and money because you didn't have any expectations when you got behind the wheel. Funny though, every single time you and I get behind the driver's seat of a car, we know exactly where we're going. We can even be told how long it's going to take us to get there. And we can see the roadblocks that are going to happen along the way. The slow traffic, got to get over the HOV lane, got to get off early because there was an accident. Like, because we have an expectation, I got a plan to get where I need to go. I know what time I need to get there, which also informs what I need to do prior to starting down that road of expectation. See how important expectations are? All right. Think about this. If you're a green thumb, put a green thumb in the comment. I don't know. Do they have a green thumb emoji? I know they gotta have one by now. But just put a green thumb emoji if you like being in the garden, right? Look at this one for a second. Let's just say you don't have any expectations when you plant a seed, right? And let's say you just hope everything grows healthy. I'm gonna just throw a bunch of seeds out there on the ground and we'll just hope for the best. All I'm doing is wishing for a garden. I got a desire, I got an aspiration, but I ain't got no plan. I'm gonna go buy a bunch of seeds and throw them in the middle of the yard, and they should just grow, right? Because I don't have no expectations. They should just grow. I don't water them. I don't remove no weeds, right? I don't do any tilling of the soil. I don't do nothing. But then I'm upset because my tomatoes ain't growing. I'm pissed off because my watermelon ain't show up. I'm mad as all get out because the corn ain't happening, right? But now I'm mad at something that required a level of work and commitment and a plan of action. So let's look at the contrast to that. If I have expectations of having a garden after I throw these seeds out here, well, first and foremost, I'm gonna till the soil. I'm gonna do all the things right to the soil so that when I put the seed in the ground, it has a good place to grow, right? I'm gonna water them consistently, and I'm expecting a fruitful garden. Why? Because I'm willing to do the work and I nurture the soil. I remove the weeds, right? And guess what? By default, I'm also protecting the plants. See? Like, so I don't want us to think like hopes, wishes, and expectations don't matter. They absolutely do matter. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if we would just build our lives on, I'm gonna set an expectation, a standard for whatever it is I'm trying to get to, right? Let's go back to fitness, right? You can wish to get in shape all you want. You can go to the gym every now and then, right? And you know, the worst people, I'm gonna tell you the worst people right now that I when I go to a gym, and this is why I'm glad I got a trainer instead of like just going to regular public gyms. I cannot stand the person who just comes there to talk the entire time. They ain't even working out. They got dressed, got in traffic, drove to the gym, and spent an hour standing there talking. That blows my mind. Why did you come and why are you paying money? Most people know that when I'm at the gym, I don't really talk because I'm really focused on the workout, right? Like, and it's not an arrogant thing. It's just I'm trying to focus. Like that's and a lot of times I'm in my head. One, because the workout is just hard as all get out, and I need to go somewhere else. But two, it's like my little space to just kind of do the work and be there, right? I'm not a talker. I'm struggling, but I ain't talking to you about it. I'm focused. I'm trying to get better at what I'm doing, right? So if you think about it, if you got specific goals with your fitness goals, right? What are some of y'all's fitness goals for 2024? Put them down in the comments. Like what the next 6 months, put your name and what you're gonna achieve, like in a few words. What are they? What are you gonna do? What are you planning to get done this year as it relates to your fitness goals? Right? Like, because you gotta put some sort of plan of action behind that thing so that you will actually achieve it. Because without that, it's gonna be really difficult for you to be able to get it done, right? Um, I see you, Carlos. You said you're gonna lose another 10 pounds. Wonderful. But Carlos already know. Carlos got a plan. Carlos had a plan before he took the first step. Because he realizes that if I don't set a level of expectation for myself, don't matter what I'm trying to get to. Right? So what I don't understand is why we would um not see how we're disappointing ourselves because we just won't set a standard. We won't have a level of expectations when it comes to our lives and how we build things. So, listen, uh, at the end of the day, here's what I want us to remember. Um, if you wish without commitment, I promise you it'll never happen. If you hope without actually accepting the other side of disappointment, it won't happen. But if you set a level of expectation and create a commitment and a plan of action, you could leverage all three. You could have a great iron triangle. I have a desire or an aspiration for something. I start crafting the plan of action. And then now I'm hopeful because I can see the end result because now I see the outcome. And now I got a level of expectation that by default creates boundaries in my life, allows me to achieve whatever I'm doing. By the way, just so you know, you don't have to have some goal that's going to take you 6 months to a year to achieve. What about the goal for today? What if in the morning you wake up and you set out, you know what? I'm going to knock out these 4 things today. Cool. And then you put a plan in action to knock out those 4 things. and by the time you go to bed, they are done. If you keep stacking that delivering over and over and over again in your life, you become a much more confident person. You start realizing within yourself, man, I can get a lot done. I can do a lot of damage on the things that I ultimately wanted to get done in my life and create. Right? Like you start seeing yourself differently because you realize there's so much I can get done. All I got to do is just stack a win on top of another win on top of another win. Carlos said, do you find that removing expectations is better? I don't, Carlos, because now I find that removing unrealistic expectations is better. Yes. If you planning to lose 40 pounds in 2 weeks, stop. But if you say this week, I plan to just stop eating sugar, or I'm going to reduce the amount of meat I eat this week. I'm going to reduce the amount of carbs I put in my body. Uh Today I'm going to focus on not eating after a certain time. Yes, that's realistic. I can achieve that. So if it's unrealistic expectations, yeah, you should cut those out. But if you set the right ones and the practical ones, I think you can get it done. Carlos said, I find just having a goal is enough of focus. No expectations reduce uh failure. There's some truth to that. Some people, but the reason for that is because people are so used to, they have a habit of unrealistic expectations. But here's the crazy part. You know what I've learned in my life? So I'm the kind of person, I know I state this all the time. I hate failure, right? I hate failing personally. I don't like when I set out to do something, I'm typically going to give it my all. And when it doesn't work out, I really don't like that. But here's what I found. If I don't fail, I didn't try hard enough. That's what I found out. I found out that the majority of the time, you probably might not achieve everything that you wanted, but you learned a lot, and you it's easier to pivot from a failure than to not than trying to pivot before you start. If that makes any sense. Meaning, if I failed today to meet my whatever goal was, let's keep going down that physical analogy, then I can say, what didn't I do today that I could do better tomorrow? Cool. And I make that small change. And over time, I get progressively better. But there's a lot of people who are still in the starting blocks trying to have everything perfect so they don't fail. And to me, that's a failure in itself. You're literally trying to craft a plan to not fail. And I'm like, well, you just failed, right? Because you're going to fail. Okay, I'll put it this way. For those of us who have children, who got children, okay? Um, some parents a lot of times feel like they're failing their kids, right? But their kids are growing up, they're prosperous, they're living their life. But as a parent, a lot of times you're like, man, I don't even know if I'm doing this right. At least I will say, I will speak for me. There's a lot of times it's just winging it, right? I think I gave them the right advice. I don't know. I gave them advice with the limited information that I have based on the scenario they found themselves in, right? But to them, you might be doing all right. They might have no issue with you, but to you, right? But what I mean is that you need the failure to learn. And then over time, you realize, you know what? Okay, yep, there was some things here, some things there. But if I hadn't made that decision, I wouldn't even know that today. Right. So it's those things become really important. That's right, Carlos. You embrace failure, but you don't dwell on it. That's the point. You got to be like a quarterback. I threw an interception. All right, next play. Missed that pass. Next play. Got sacked. Next play. You gotta have a very short term memory in life of your failures, so that you can focus on getting to the win. Right now, some of us, I say this. Some people build monuments at a failure, and some people keep moving. Right? You can either build a monument or you can keep moving, but you can't have both. Right? And so people tend to point back to why they didn't do something because that failed right there. Well, that doesn't mean that everything is bad or every experience after that moment is going to be bad for you. It just means that one time it didn't go well. Okay, get back up and try it again. Interesting enough, we have to tell that to more adults than we do kids. Because when our kids fail at something, we tell them, get back up and try it again. You're going to be okay. You can do it. But we become adults and we become like the most feeble thing on the planet. But yet we would tell our kids, keep at it, right? So sometimes we need to take our own advice. Anyway, y'all, I hope this was helpful. If this was, for those of you watching the replay, let me know which one stood out to you. Put it down in the comments. You can feel free to share this with somebody that you love and that you know. Other than that, man, I just want to come on here, share some information, give you some games, some stuff that I personally learned and I wanted to share. Go check out the Grow Your Side Business podcast, available on all platforms. This episode will also be on there. So I'll make sure the conversation is dropped on there for you shortly. Have a great night. Take care and catch you guys in the next one. Peace.